So I've mentioned before that I used to be a stripper. I did it for like 7 or 8 years, and trust me, nothing's changed. So my advice is still solid. I'm positive of it. And I can tell you that for sure because I have a girlfriend that still does it, and we still talk about how it goes. So I know for sure that my advice was the same 8 years ago as it is today. So don't worry about that. But I was thinking I was going to get back into it, and it crossed my mind, how would I get back into it? Because honestly, I don't have a lot of money right now. I spent all of my money on traveling and going to conferences and going to music festivals, and I made a lot of mistakes with my money. I don't regret any of it. I've probably traveled more than 98% of the country, and I'm not joking, of the United States. So I have no regrets. But I need to make money again, and I'm working online right now, but it's not stripper money, and I want stripper money again. So I'm thinking about getting back into it, and I thought, well, how am I going to do that? Because at the moment I don't have a car, and there isn't a strip club in the town that I live in. So I would need to get to a new club, get a place to stay, and to do all of that, you need money. And I thought, well, God, if I'm thinking about this and I have an issue considering getting back into stripping, what about other girls that have never done this before? So if you live in a small town and there is no strip club around you, and this is something you really want to do either because you want to or because you have to, I have the solution for you, my dear. So here's exactly how you can do it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to download an app called Hopper. Hopper's an app that you can pick a bunch of cities, pick whatever city that you're thinking of that you would like to strip in. Obviously, major cities might be a better idea. Tampa, Miami, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia. I would go with those areas first before going to somewhere like California, because California doesn't make it, well, actually, I take that back. California does semi-make it easy on you. San Diego does not. You have to pay $500 just to get a license to work in San Diego, which is outrageous. That was a while ago, though. That might have changed. I wouldn't start in Las Vegas. I just wouldn't start there. I mean, you could, but I wouldn't do it. So you download an app called Hopper, and you punch in all the big cities that you would like to try. It doesn't even need to be a big city. I would recommend Tampa because Mons Venus is there. Mons Venus is a world famous club. It's the one that I worked at forever, and it was hands down my favorite club that I've ever worked at. The reason is because the managers are all women, and they've all been through what you're going through. So they're very understanding. They're very nice. There's basically no rules. I mean, there are rules with customers. You're not allowed to do anything dirty. Everything's out in the open. Dance prices range from $20 to $30. There are no champagne rooms. This is a topic in and of itself, but I would pick Mons if I were you, if I was first starting out, because any girl that I ever met that started at Mons, oh my God, everyone would tell her how lucky she was that was the first club she'd ever tried. Anyway, getting Hopper will tell you when a trip that you want to go on has dropped in price a lot. Like recently I had Austin, Texas in my Hopper list, and it went down to like $187 for a round trip ticket. It might have been a one-way ticket. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But the point is, it's really helpful. So this is for all if you don't have money. So go ahead and type in a bunch of places that you want to go to that you would like to consider stripping into Hopper, and then that will notify you when tickets become available at really decent prices. Okay, so that solves you're getting a cheap ticket to a city, but that doesn't solve the fact that you don't have the money to pay for the ticket. So what you're going to do next is you're going to get onto a site called whatsyourprice.com. What's Your Price saved my life a few times, not literally, but figuratively. Honestly, it helped keep me out of stripping for years. That's part of the reason why I haven't had to go back to stripping, is because of this magical site, What's Your Price. A friend of mine told me about this site a long time ago, and it took a couple years for me to actually get on it. If there's a long story behind that maybe I'll share sometime, but this is going to be hard to believe, and you're going to have to look at it to actually believe it. And I'm going to show you some examples, but I'm going to blur out the faces of the guys that are on here. They probably don't want their faces on YouTube. So what the site is it's a dating site. And I'm not joking when I say this. This is 100% true. You sign up on the site, and I'll show you my profile. And you will have men send you bids to take you out, to take you to dinner, to take you to lunch. Some want to go to movies and stuff like that. I'm not interested in that at all. But some maybe want to go other places. Some will want to go to their hotel room, but do not do that. Okay. Listen, I have nothing against prostitution personally. I think that people should be able to do whatever the hell they want to do with their own bodies. If you want to do drugs, I'd say do drugs. I'd say if you want to be a prostitute, be a prostitute. But it's illegal. And as much as I hate the government, and I hate to say that, you do not want to land your ass in jail. So don't do anything illegal, okay? I hate that I'm saying that because I really think I'm such a anarchist. I pretend to be libertarian sometimes because it's more accepted, I guess. And my brother and I have had some discussions actually about anarchy and libertarianism, and he kind of won some of them. He thinks that anarchy is a little bit too off the cuff, but anyway, so sign up for What's Your Price. What I've noticed is, I would say, quote unquote, the sweet spot, that's actually what a friend of mine called it, that's a guy that's also on the site, is anywhere from $150 to $200. And this is seriously to go on a date. You know, you will notice that some of the men, from their profiles, you can tell what they're looking for. For instance, I got a $200 bid last night, and I just accepted it before I read this guy's profile. And then I went and read his profile, and it said dinner, drinks, and then something between two adults. And had I read that, I would not have accepted his offer. But again, I don't have anything against hookers, but I'm not a hooker, and I'm not going to sleep with you. I'm just not going to sleep with you. Now, I'll say this. I have dated a couple guys from there that I have thought about sleeping with, and one of them I did. Now, it wasn't because of money. This was on a second date, actually. But I'm just throwing it out there. Like, you can meet guys that you actually like on that site. And I've had a lot of fun on that site. I'm not going to lie. I've had a lot of fun on that site. Maybe it's because I'm getting paid. That could be a huge part of it, that I'm getting $150 to $200 to go on a date with somebody. So that automatically makes them more likable to me. There's a lot behind the topic of this site because getting paid is an important thing to think about when you go on that site. I've been stiffed a couple times, but I've been on probably 50 dates on this site. So getting stiffed a few times out of a lot isn't a big deal. And the guys that I did get stiffed from, I could have asked them for the money, but I was angry at them, so I just walked away. So I never even bothered to ask. One of them I did, but I didn't ask him until after I had left, which was a mistake. It's so funny how some guys can look so intelligent, so rich and whatever, and they're just complete assholes and whatever. So it happens. But anyway, this is how you can make money to get yourself to an area where you can actually dance. So get on this site, and let's say you live in a really small town and you either don't want to date guys in your town because you're worried about that, you don't want to put your picture on there, maybe you know somebody in town that's on that site, which is highly unlikely, but it's possible. So let's say that you can't find enough dates to get you enough money to get yourself to a city, right? In this case, all we're going to need to worry about is your flight to get out there. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to create multiple What's Your Price profiles, and you're going to put them in the major cities that you want to go dance in. So put all these multiple profiles, really try to do your profile well. Try to take really good pictures. They don't have to be, I wouldn't necessarily put up crazy, seductive, sexy pictures because you don't want to give guys the wrong impression that it's going to be more than a first date, because you could run into issues there. Nothing dangerous. I would always suggest meeting in a public place for dinner or lunch. I would never meet somebody in a park or something like that, but somewhere public. After you have multiple profiles up, and really you could just do one in the main place that you want to go to, but if you want to do this quickly, then I would put up multiple profiles. Get on there and start going to guys' profiles and just shooting out bids. It feels really weird at first, but after a while it kind of becomes fun. And I've even sent out bids with like weird numbers just to experiment, but I like to do weird stuff like that. So I would send out a bunch of $150 bids because it doesn't make you look like a gold digger. Okay, 150 seems like it makes sense. It's a decent price. It's not too much. And even if you spend 3 hours on a date with this guy, that's still $50 an hour. That doesn't take into account your time getting ready and all that, but maybe test it. Maybe throw out like 10 $200 bids and 10 $150 bids and see what happens. And you're going to have, and I would keep track of that, because whatever the majority of people do, whatever they say yes to, faster than having to go back and forth, because that's really annoying. I find it annoying. You might not. You might think it's fun. I would just go with whatever happens to be faster. If you send out a bunch of $200 bids and you get a bunch of countered at $150, it depends on you. This all depends on you. It depends on what you feel like spending your time doing. So anyway, after you get a bunch of bids in different cities, accept the bids, communicate with these guys, tell them you're not there yet, but you're going to be in town. Now you're going to wait until you get find something on Hopper, a good price on Hopper, a good deal when it pops up in whatever city, and then go in and set up solid dates with these guys. You could do 3 dates in one day. You could go to breakfast with somebody, you could go to lunch with somebody, you go to dinner with somebody, you go to a late lunch with somebody, a late lunch with somebody, and then a late dinner with somebody. Like you can fit in 3. I think 3 is the most I've done in a day. Say you do that. You go on 3 dates with 3 guys in one day. The first day you get to whatever town you're going to. That's $450 that you just landed. Now you can pay for your room, you can pay for your cab to get wherever, and you can even pay for your house fee for starting work, and have extra money left over. And house fee I'll get into a little bit later what that is. So I realize there's so much to this topic. Oh my God, I've almost been talking for 20 minutes. Okay, so next, you're going to sign up on Airbnb.com. Now, let's say you don't have a credit card, okay? Or you can't rent a room for whatever reason. There's another option, which is Couchsurfing.com. Let me go into Airbnb first. Airbnb is awesome. I found places down in Miami to rent people's entire apartments for $50 a night. That was better than I could have gotten a hotel for down there, which is just a room. And I got a washer and dryer. I had, a whole apartment to myself, a kitchen. I had everything. I would recommend Airbnb first, okay? They're not expensive. Some of them are. You can get really expensive places, or you can get really not expensive places. And it has lots of options. You can rent out somebody's entire place, or you can just rent out a room. I would rent out somebody's entire place, but that's me. I like to be alone. I like my space. I rented out a room in a mansion once when I was in Tampa, and I had problems with that. After the guy found out I was a stripper, he kicked me out, actually. So I probably shouldn't be giving bad stories about Airbnb, but I've stayed at a lot of Airbnbs, and that was the only bad experience I had. So Airbnb, great option for renting out an entire place. Now, if you don't have the ability to rent a room, get on Couchsurfing.com. Couchsurfing.com is awesome for many, many, many reasons. The first of all, it's free, okay? The second reason is that people on there are so freaking friendly. They're so ridiculously nice. So here's what you're going to do, though, if you get on to Couchsurfing.com. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like I have an obligation to keep the people that I suggest to get on Couchsurfing.com cool. Because if you're on Couchsurfing.com, you're most likely a cool person. And I would never want to suggest this to somebody that was going to be rude or thoughtless or whatever. Most of the people are on Couchsurfing.com because most of the people that host guests, such as yourself, if you get on the site, are on there because they like to meet people. they like to be friendly. They're letting a stranger come into their house. And there are references on there, so you can check and make sure that this person is a cool person. If they have bad references, don't stay with them. If they have no references, maybe don't stay with them. It's up to you. I've done both. I've stayed with people with no references. I've never stayed with somebody with a bad reference. Even if it's just 1 out of like 50, I still haven't stayed with somebody like that. But anyway, it's free. And now if you're going to be doing this, if you're going to get on there and you're going to end up going to a strip club, here's something you can do. Here's a suggestion. Tell your host why you're going to the city. Be honest. Tell them why you're going there. Because if you end up going out late at night, you're going to want them to know why you're coming in so late. They're not your parent. They're not even necessarily really your friend yet, but you're staying at their house. So if you come in at 4 a.m, that could be uncomfortable or even scary for them, especially if it's a girl. It could be frightening to hear somebody come in at your house at 4 a.m. thinking, okay, well, it's probably my couch surfer, but it's 4 o'clock in the fucking morning. I don't know that that's my couch surfer. And even if it is, do they have someone with them? So you're going to want to be upfront with this person. Tell them what's going on. Here's another thing you could potentially do. Now, I've never done this. I've never been to somebody's house couch surfing with the intention of working that night. I usually just do it for play. I've never done it for work. But here's something you can do is after you get in touch with a bunch of these people or a few of these people or whatever, you could say what you're doing. You could say, I've never stripped before, or I'm thinking about becoming a stripper and I don't have the ability to do this in my town, so I need to come to a major city like yours to give it a try. If you're nervous, say you're a little bit nervous. If you're not, be like you're really excited, and then you could ask them, would you want to come with me the first night and we could just go as patrons and look around? That will give them the knowledge that you are friendly and that you want to hang out with them, which is good. And a lot of couch surfing hosts, if you stay with them for a few days, they really only care if you hang out with them for like 1 day. So you don't need to hang out every day, but if you go and you hang out with them the first day and they have a lot of fun with you, especially, they might invite you to stay longer and stuff like that. So, and then the next night when you leave, it's 7 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night or later. And then you come in at 4 a.m, 3 a.m, 2 a.m, whatever it is. They're not going to be upset. They might even wake up and come be like, hey, how did it go? They might want to hear about it. So this is a way that you can travel close to free is using Couchsurfing.com. And then Airbnb is just more if you want time privately alone, which I would recommend. But you might really enjoy couch surfing. I've been doing it for years and I think it's a lot of fun. So you might also really enjoy it. Okay, so next, you're going to want to sign up for Lyft or Uber. Now, if you don't have a credit card, this isn't necessary, but it's just easier than calling a cab. I don't like cabs. I never have liked cabs. I've always thought that Lyft and Uber were way cooler, and I just like them a lot better. So, and they're super easy if you've never used it. You get on the app, you have to put in your credit card or PayPal or debit card, doesn't matter, and then you can use the app. When you're getting off work, you just tap a button on your phone and it already knows your location, and a cab will be there within like 5 minutes most likely. Okay, so now that you have all this stuff signed up and ready to go, you've got money or at least you've got it lined up as soon as you get there, right? You've either got it or it's lined up for as soon as you get there. You could even, honestly, you could set up a lot of dates for your first day. You could set up like 6 dates, what we talked about earlier, a lunch date, a late lunch date, and a late dinner date. I would give each guy at least a few hours. Personally, that's what I would do. I feel like $150 to a stranger is a decent amount of money. Maybe they'll want to cut it off early. Maybe they won't want to stay long at all. But in my experience, at least a few hours has always been a fun amount of time with every guy I've gone out with from that site. So, well, almost every guy I've gone out with from that site. Plus, going out with these guys will also help make you more comfortable around men too, by the way. So you've got money either in your pocket or ready to go. You've got your cheap flight lined up for whenever it's going to be lined up. You've got Airbnb or Uber. out of the way. You want to get signed up on both of those, look around for places to stay, and you've got your ride set up for whenever you go. I would definitely recommend using Lyft or Uber instead of renting a car or something like that, because I just think it would be easier, especially if whatever club you get to, you drink. Do not drink and drive, okay? Do not do that. I am so serious when I say that. I feel like I'm just turned into your mother. It's not worth it. I know a girl that got a DUI, and she said, yeah, they say it costs like $10,000 to pay it off. She goes, yeah, try $10,000 your first month. I don't know how far she was in the hole with the government, but I mean, and I kept forgetting, and I would always offer her a glass of wine when I was at work with her, and finally I ended up getting it into my skull. Oh my God, this girl cannot drink. And I felt so bad for her, because at the time I drank a lot while I was at work. So now you're going to want to start calling clubs. You're going to want to write down these questions, type them out, write them down with a pen and paper, whatever you want to do, and be ready to take answers. So what you're going to do is you're going to call, just line up a bunch of clubs, as many as you can, as many as you want to, and you're going to start asking them these questions. What is the best time to audition? Sometimes there's a good time for night shift and day shift. I would get both answers. How is your day crowd? Personally, I enjoyed working days sometimes. It's a totally different clientele typically, and they're usually very nice, businesslike, respectful, and most of the time they don't have time for small talk. They just want to meet, dance, and go back to work, which is nice. What's your house fee? A house fee is the cost to you to pay to work there. Most clubs don't collect on this until the end of the night, and a lot of clubs, if you're new, your first night is free. So most of the time you can keep your house fee the first night. But it'll range anywhere from $20 to $80 most likely. Some of them get expensive. I think I paid $200 once in Las Vegas to work, which was outrageous, but I also paid to stay off a stage, which is another topic for another day. You also want to ask them the dress code, and this is important. You want to make sure you ask them if there's anything that's illegal to wear in there, because you can tell them you heard that in some places it's illegal to wear certain type of panties, like T-backs are not approved of in certain states. So make sure to ask this question, because you don't want to show up and not be able to work because of something ridiculously silly like that. Ask what time the shifts run from. So a lot of the place I recommended in Tampa, Mons Venus, there are no shifts. There to a vague degree are, but it's only because that's when the day shift manager comes in and leaves, and the night shift manager comes in and leaves, and the house fee changes. So from day shift, from I think it's 12 to 6:30 is $30, and then at night it was $42. Anytime from 7 p.m. onward was $42. Most clubs, if you come in at 7, the house fee is the cheapest, like $20 or something like that, and then it keeps getting more expensive throughout the night. And then some clubs, if you come in too late, not too late, but if you come in late enough, like 11 p.m., even midnight, then they'll make you pay up front. Because if the club's only open for a couple more hours or a few more hours, they want to make sure that they get paid. Don't worry about any of this, though. You'll figure it out as you go for sure, but these are just some helpful pointers. Then you want to ask them their name, the person you're talking to, say thank you, and say goodbye. You want to write down their name, and you want to make a good impression on them. You want to make allies with the people that you work with, especially the bouncers, the managers, and the door girls, because they all have some significant power over how much money you can make. Bouncers can recommend you to clients, so can door girls, so can waitresses. Managers even will recommend you. And managers can also make your life a lot easier. So, if you get close with your managers, if you become friendly with your managers, and you want to leave early one night, some clubs do have like hour lengths that you have to stay. I mean, I worked at some clubs where you're supposed to stay for at least 4 hours. Some clubs, if you come in, you stay until the end of the night. But if you're friendly with your managers, if your managers like you, and you don't take advantage of this, you can do whatever you want in a lot of cases. You can leave early, you can whatever. And sometimes you might have to pay to leave early. This is all a case-by-case basis when it comes to people, but getting on people's good side is always a good idea. When it comes to the girls, you don't necessarily want to be that friendly, but you don't want to come off as a bitch either, because you don't want people to not like you, but you do not want to spend your time talking to them. Trust me, it's probably the biggest waste of money, because they'll want to stop and talk to you, they'll want to complain to you, they'll want to do all that stuff. So that's probably the biggest waste of time. So be friendly, don't be a bitch, but don't be that friendly. I'm going to give you an example of how I was able to avoid becoming friends with the girls at the last club that I worked at. Because if you're a nice person, if you're, a compassionate person at all to any degree, when somebody comes in the room and they start complaining, I think it's human nature to kind of sympathize with that person or whatever. This is a bad idea, okay? It's a bad idea, because the more you let them get away with it, the more they'll do that to you. So after working at enough clubs, I realized I do not want to become friends with the girls that I work with. So at the last club that I went to, when I first started, and I started on a day shift, so there was not many people there. There's not many girls that work on day shift. I'm in the dressing room. I'm fixing my makeup. I don't think there was maybe but a few people in the club. And all of a sudden, this girl storms in the dress, stares at me. And I was finishing on my makeup, and I turned around and I looked at her and I gave her like a, half-hearted, it'll get better kind of smile. And then I walked out of the dressing room. I didn't say a word to her. Nothing. I didn't encourage her to keep complaining to me. I didn't tell her, oh, I know what you mean. Because if you say stuff like that, oh, I know what you mean, you're automatically agreeing that it's bad, that the day is going bad. And if you agree that your day is going bad, most likely your day will go bad. So don't do that. You do not want to do that. So after a little while, everybody there knew I just was not the girl to complain to. But I wasn't a bitch either. I never said anything mean or negative to anybody. I just didn't say anything most of the time. And I would give at least a grin, grin and a smile and whatever, and a genuine one. But I wouldn't sit there and complain with them. Misery does love company. Do not get miserable company. It will make your life miserable. So that's a good way to avoid that kind of drama. So the things that you're going to want to take with you when you go to where you're going is your social security card, which is not necessarily necessary. And in a lot of cases, it's not necessary, but most clubs do ask for it. So here's something that's happened to me quite a few times is I don't travel with my social security card. So I would go to a club, and if they would say, they would ask for my social, and I would start that night. So it would be like I'd audition and then I would start. I wouldn't come back the next day. I would start that night. And they would say, they'd ask for my social security card, and I'd say, oh, I don't have it with me. Can I bring it back tomorrow? And they would say yes. And then you come back tomorrow, and if you still don't have it, don't say anything to them about it anytime you come in. And a lot of times they'll completely forget about it. They won't even ask you about it again. That's happened to me in multiple places. That's happened to me in California. That's happened to me in Miami. It's happened in a few places. So you don't remind them of it. And if you come back again and you still don't have it, and they say, listen, you need to have it, otherwise you can't work tonight, just say, okay, go ahead and say, okay, well, I guess I can't work tonight then, and leave and go to a different club. No big deal. You got to go through the audition process again, but it's really not hard. So there you go. So that's how you do it if you really want to do this, if you really want to work, but you don't have the money to do it. You can't afford to go somewhere to do this. That's how you do it. You will be able to do this, okay? You're going to be able to figure this out. Even if you have to take a freaking bus to get to a close by town where you can get a date for $150 or $200, you are going to be able to do this. It just takes drive. You just got to try.